Houston downs Texas in overtime and proves that it is the best team. Houston is the best team in Big 12 basketball. I know that Kansas is up there. I think Kansas has the best starting five, maybe not just in the Big 12, but in the country. I know that Texas Tech is also, from a win percentage standpoint, right there, and they could be considered the best team in the Big 12. They have the pieces for it. But when I think about, you could say, all right, Texas Tech and Houston are pretty even. From a win percentage standpoint, from a win-loss standpoint, they are. Who has more horses in the stable? Who has more dogs out there? It is Houston. The only reason that Houston allowed more than 70 points is because this game went to overtime. When it went to overtime, they were locked down defensively. Houston never ran away with the game against Texas, but it didn't always feel like it was. Houston was in control. Do you understand, if your team has played Houston to this point, you do understand how deadly this Houston defense is. Can we wrap our head around this? Houston is 19-2 this season. 19-2, maybe not just the number one team in the Big 12, the number one team in the country. Now, their preseason, non-conference, whatever you want to call it, wasn't good. From Stetson to Montana, a win at Xavier has looked better with Sean Miller leading the way over at Xavier. The win against Texas A&M has looked fine. The win against Dayton has looked fine in Utah, but they never showed me in non-conference that they were going to be legit. And the West Virginia win at home wasn't legit either. Then they lost 2 in a row. They started 1-2 in Big 12 play with losses to Iowa State and TCU. And then the tear. Here, let me pull it up. Texas Tech, they beat them by 23 points. UCF beat them by 15 points. They won at BYU by 7. They beat Kansas State by 22, and they go to Texas and win in overtime. Texas had not lost in the Moody Center against a top 10 team. Houston goes to Kansas on Saturday. Obviously, that's the marquee. Obviously, it's when we find out how legitimate Houston actually is. But for right now, Houston is stupid good. And everybody else in the conference should be scared of them. I don't know if Houston is going to lose a home game this season in the conference where home teams are still not safe. Houston, the rest of the way, Kansas on the road. That might be a loss. It's probably a loss. Then they get Oklahoma State at home, Cincinnati, Texas, Iowa State at home. In all likelihood, they win 3 out of 4. I can almost guarantee they win 3 out of 4, and they likely do win 4 out of 4 in those games before they go on the road against Baylor, then come back home against Cincinnati. Houston has become a juggernaut in this conference under Kelvin Sampson and shown that the adjustment in college basketball amongst conferences is not that dramatic, and that the AAC isn't a powerhouse in college basketball. The Houston success, to me, doesn't give any homage to the AAC. It doesn't mean the American Conference is any better than people are calling it in basketball. What it means is that Houston itself is. Houston itself is a program that is next level and elite already. Blue blood, no, despite the success with Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon and those guys. Who was the guy that? Yeah. Despite all that, Houston, to me, has proven that it is, and it's not just the defense, because you'll remember I said a couple of weeks ago that Houston needed to be better. Houston needed to be better from the standpoint of offense. And that hasn't been an issue. That's the problem, is that Kelvin Sampson is developing this team to become better and better over the course of the basketball season. And to me, if you had to ask me to pick today who's the Big 12 champion, it's Houston. They led by double digits against Texas. And as much as I've told you that Texas won't make the tournament, and they might still not make the tournament, 3-5 in Big 12 play, 14-7 overall. Their trajectory is not great for the Longhorns right now. They are still good at home. And that has preceded them. They still beat top 25 teams at home. They've now lost 4 out of 6. They have lost 2 in a row. They go to TCU on Saturday. They're going to lose that one. Iowa State at home. They likely lose that one. Texas is in a world of trouble, and I don't know if they make March Madness. But for Houston to go against a a team in Texas that is always up there, that's always consistent in the regular season at the very least, and win on the road in overtime. They've done it in every way. They've won blowouts, and then when they blow out a bunch of teams in a row, you think, well, then they can't play in close games, and they don't know how to play in close games. And then they don't just manufacture a win. They go and get a win in overtime where they dominated the overtime period. They go get a win in overtime where they weren't the team that was out shooting the Longhorns in free throws in their building, where they weren't the team that was getting those lucky calls or a couple of, I thought the game was so well officiated. This is the one time where I thought, finally in an overtime game, officials in the last 7 minutes, overtime included, didn't ruin really good basketball. And from LJ Cryer on, to Jamal Shead, this team is not just fun to watch. They are in the conversation for a national championship. And now Kelvin Sampson's been there before. How do you balance that? I don't know. Can they actually do it this year? I don't know. What needs to be fixed? I don't know. They out-rebounded Texas 47-36. Houston, in a lot of ways, bullied Texas in this game. Only 5 steals is not great. 6 blocks is. Houston only turned the ball over 10 times. Only fouled 20 times, which in the Big 12 is a miracle, by the way. With these officials, is a miracle. 8 for 24 from 3, still won. 41% from the field, still won. On the road. Kelvin Sampson's team is good. I think your team's probably good. You're probably an Iowa State fan, a Kansas State fan listening. I think your team's still good. But man, Houston just looks like next level right now, especially at home. And this wasn't even a home game. It worries me for everybody else. It does. Houston could win the regular season Big 12 title in their first year in Big 12 play. And I don't think that would be embarrassing for everybody else because Houston is a legitimate basketball program, but it wouldn't be very fun for everybody else, right? Yeah. Coming up, is Brittany Griner the best player in Big 12 history? Who would you say it is? Before we even do, who would you say? This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team, and guess what? It is every day. Today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Jase Case is where I go to stay healthy. There is a shortage right now across the country of antibiotics, and Jase Medical is here to help you. I know you're here for the sports, the escape of sports, but according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. It is scary. I can't imagine the feeling of helplessness if I get sick and don't have antibiotics. Thankfully, Jase Case. Jase Case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jasemedical.com, complete the physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. Save money. Help possibly save your life. It is never more important to be prepared than it is today at jasemedical.com. Use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. Jase Medical, JASE medical.com. Get $20 off your order. Go check them out at Jase Case today.